I know what you're thinking. Renekton? Really? We're going to talk about him? And yeah, I'm going to be starting this new series where I'm going to be talking about champions that are good to blind pick. And I think he's a great champion since he has been in league for a while and he has notoriously been a really good pick both in competitive play but also in solo queue. And as the title implies, I'm mainly going to be focusing on Renekton's blind picking aspect. If you want a more in-depth guide on Renekton's mechanics or how you should be looking to play him, I highly advise going and checking 3-in-1 Warriors YouTube channel. I'm going to leave a link down below. That said, I will be talking about some of Renekton's core ideas as a champion to further my point throughout the video, and with all that said, let's quickly go on to the first point. There are multiple reasons why Renekton is a good blind pick, but to name a few, he is from the Bruiser class and also is melee, meaning that he naturally has better base stats, being one of the highest HP base champions in the game. He has built-in sustain which helps him survive rougher matchups, mainly range champions. He has some ability, being able to gap close to range champions but also escape bad situations. He has a strong level 6 power spike which allows him to potentially 2v1 situations if he gets ganked, and he can play around it as a little bit of a mini win condition in his laning phase. But to summarize everything, he has one of the best laning phases in the game. The matchups you need to look out for when blinding Renekton are range matchups, tank matchups, and some specific bruisers. Let's first look at the range matchups. Range matchups are the hardest for Renekton to deal with since his biggest weakness is his lack of reach. Whilst he does have his E ability, Slice and Dice, it's often not enough against some champions who also have a self-peeling ability, for instance Vayne E, Twin E, or Gnar E. All these abilities are really hard for Renekton to deal with. Some range matchups are harder to deal with, and the hardest one by far is Vayne, since she has multiple peeling abilities. Her Q, her E, and her ult are all tools Renekton struggles against. There are a few things you could do to have a better time against this archetype of champions. Firstly, letting them auto-attack you sometimes is actually not bad, since they often overextend and end up eating a lot of damage from minions. They don't inherently have any built-in sustain, but only through items, and generally in the earlier stages of the lane phase that doesn't help too much. Try to utilize more lane-centric runes, such as Absorb Life and Second Wind, and from items, utilize Door and Shield. Pay extra attention to their cooldowns, and look for openings if they end up misstepping. Remember, when you're facing a range champion, you don't actually need a lot of damage in your build. Focus on utility items like Strikebreaker and Edge of Night, and for rune choices on your keystone, you can go PTA or Fleet Footwork. The reason why this archetype of champion is something that the enemies might end up picking against you is because in theory, later down the line, they would end up being more useful than you due to the fact that they're able to do your job but better. They're able to tank more but also disrupt the enemy backline. In order for you to bypass this, I highly advise playing really aggressive during the laning phase and looking for advantages there. The most notable champion from this archetype will for sure be Malphite. Look to trade with him a lot during the laning phase and look to hurt his mana pool. If you have to, run Ignite so you can guarantee a win in the laning phase, since it's extremely important that you start building up a lead so you can match his prowess in the mid and late game. I know some people like building Blade, but honestly I've never seen somebody in higher elo build it, and I personally don't like it either. The much better alternative is to always go Black Cleaver either first or second, and Malphite is no exception. There's a set of bruisers that can actually match Renekton in his 1v1 during the laning phase. The more notable ones are Jax, Garen, and Gwen. My overall advice against all bruisers that you struggle against is to get good at your combos, get good at understanding the enemy's kit, basically playing around their cooldowns and looking to not overextend, thinking about trading patterns, looking for short trades, and playing around your ult. Even though you're blind picking, you should always have some idea behind your blind pick. Before you lock in your choice, you're gonna have information on 2 to 4 from the enemy champions. Also, check your teammate's comp and make sure that it needs a bruiser. You should accept the fact that you're probably gonna get a counterpicked by one of the options I mentioned before, but your champion should still make sense at the current team comp that you have and or against some of the enemy champions. Here's some examples of champions that you would want to pick Renekton against and some examples of champions that you wouldn't. I purposefully picked champions from all roles. As you can see, the champions that hurt Renekton the most are champions that outrange him by a huge margin, or are able to hard CC him or kite him a lot, like Kindred. But as you can see, some champions, even though they're ranged, Renekton still should do pretty good against them. For instance, Samira and Draven. Every time I see these champions, I actually am glad that I can pick Renekton into this, because Renekton actually can shut down these champions pretty good, because these champions like to go in really close because of their short range, and he can easily get a stun off and potentially just win the fight off it. A few other things I want to mention is Renekton actually can be blind picked on mid lane, but he is more punishable because more longer range champions are played there. But if he's one of the only AD mids you play, I don't see a reason not, especially if the team comp allows it. And for overall more Renekton success, in the mid game, try to be more creative with your flanks. TPing is not the only way. Try to be on the objective before the enemy team, and honestly even before your teammates. Being a teamfight menace is a key when playing Renekton. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, I would appreciate a sub and also a thumbs up. Also, if you're interested in more League resources, I'll leave a link down below to my Discord channel in the description. I'm looking to build a community where everybody can improve and get better together. With all that said, I'll see you on the next one.